Google is contemplating putting giant AI installations in low Earth orbit. DJI drones might soon be banned in the US. And a UK High Court sided with Stability AI over Getty in a copyright case. It's Wednesday, November 5th, and here's a quick look at tech in the news this morning from Engadget. Putting AI in space may sound like a sci-fi nightmare, but Google is thinking about the idea with a research endeavor called Project Suncatcher. The idea is to put power-hungry data centers into orbit on solar-powered satellites so they can be powered by unlimited clean energy available 24 hours a day. That would mitigate the nastiest aspects of AI cloud computing, like the use of power plants that spew huge amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere. Project Suncatcher is a literal moonshot of the type that Google used to do more often. The search giant wants to put its AI chips called Tensor processing units into orbit aboard solar panel-equipped satellites. Google Senior Director Travis Beals wrote, "In the future, space may be the best place to scale AI compute. In the right orbit, a solar panel can be up to 8 times more productive than on Earth and produce power nearly continuously, reducing the need for batteries." Suffice it to say, the idea poses numerous challenges. That proximity to the sun would expose the TPUs to high levels of radiation that can rapidly degrade electronic components. However, Google has tested its current chips for radiation tolerance and said they'd be able to survive a 5-year mission without suffering permanent failures. Another challenge is the high-speed data links of tens of terabits per second and low latency required between satellites. Those speeds would be hard to achieve in space, as transmitting data at long distances requires exponentially more power than on Earth. To achieve that, Google said it may need to maneuver TPU-equipped satellites into tight formations, possibly within kilometers or less of each other. That would have the added benefit of reducing station-keeping thrust maneuvers needed to keep the satellites in the right position. The determining factor, though, is money. Launching TPUs into space may not seem cost-efficient, but Google's analysis shows that doing so could be roughly comparable to data centers on Earth in terms of power efficiency by around the mid-2030s. While it is currently only a preliminary research paper, Google is planning to put Project Suncatcher through some initial trials. It has teamed with a company called Planet on a learning mission to launch a pair of prototype satellites into orbit by 2027. Google says this experiment will test how our models and TPU hardware operate in space and validate the use of optical inter-satellite links for distributed machine learning tasks. Since being placed on a Department of Commerce entity list back in 2020 over national security fears, China's DJI has faced the threat of a U.S. ban on its hyper-popular drones. After exhausting its appeals and losing a lawsuit last month, DJI products like the Mini 4 Pro, the Avata 2, and Neo may disappear from U.S. shelves starting December 23rd. The situation could be even worse than initially expected. The FCC just gave itself the power to retroactively cut off products from companies on its covered list, including DJI. That gives the government the right to not just halt sales of future products, but enact rules preventing people from using drones that they've already purchased. DJI dominates the consumer U.S. drone market, so a ban would be terrible news for hobbyists and creators, along with industrial and public safety operators. But the government's concerns about the company's drones as potential spying tools are very real. DJI is based in Shenzhen, China, and introduced its ready-to-fly, now iconic Phantom drone back in 2013, opening up aerial photography to creators and cinematographers. By 2016, the company had caught the attention of U.S. regulators concerned about Chinese camera-equipped drones flying over sensitive facilities. While no one has uncovered a smoking gun proving that DJI drones spy for China, they undoubtedly pose a potential national security risk. In 2017, DJI's drones were banned from use by the U.S. Army. Later that year, the Department of Homeland Security issued a memo stating with moderate confidence that DJI's drones were providing U.S. critical infrastructure and law enforcement data to the Chinese government. The agency never provided any direct proof, however, and DJI denied it. And then in 2020, DJI was added to the U.S. Department of Commerce's entity list over claims it enabled wide-scale human rights abuses within China. Now, that meant the company could no longer buy parts or services from U.S. manufacturers like Amazon Web Services, Texas Instruments, and Intel. Last week, the situation became potentially more dire for DJI. The FCC voted 3-0 to give itself the authority to ban devices and radio components previously approved for operation in the U.S. On top of the NDAA ban, the FCC would theoretically have the right to prevent DJI's drones and other products from using U.S. radio frequencies, effectively making them inoperable. The new regulations would also empower the FCC to bar any clones of products like the Mavic Air 3 created by alleged DJI shell companies like Anzu and Sky High Tech, as The Verge reported. The FCC did underline that it was not planning to take away drones people have already purchased. Stability AI has partially succeeded in defending itself against accusations of copyright infringement. As reported by The Guardian, Stability AI prevailed in a high-profile UK High Court case following Getty first suing the company back in 2023 for allegedly using its copyright images to train its Stable Diffusion AI art tool without permission. Getty's original claim was that Stability AI had unlawfully copied and processed millions of protected images for training purposes, therefore abusing the rights of the original creators. However, the Seattle-based company eventually withdrew its claims of primary copyright infringement, as it reportedly could offer no evidence that unauthorized copying for the training of Stable Diffusion had taken place in the UK. The ruling concerned claims of secondary infringement, to which the High Court judge ruled that an AI model, such as Stable Diffusion, which does not store or reproduce any copyrighted works, and has never done so, is not an infringing copy under UK law. Now, this was despite the ruling finding some evidence of Getty's images being used by Stability, as evidenced by the presence of the former's watermark. While the judge sided with Getty on some of its claims, she said that the evidence was both historic and extremely limited in scope. The High Court ruling likely will not fill companies and creators concerned about AI-related copyright infringement with a huge amount of optimism, but unsurprisingly, both Getty and Stability AI have been quick to celebrate their respective victories. Getty did say that it was deeply concerned that even well-resourced companies remain at risk of infringement due to a lack of transparent requirements. It also urged the UK government to build on the current laws around the issue. Christian Dowell, General Counsel of Stability AI, said the final ruling from the court ultimately resolves the copyright concerns that were the core issue. Now, the ruling came just days after Getty announced a new agreement with Perplexity AI that permits the latter to access Getty's huge media library as part of its search and discovery tools. In a press release, Getty said a condition of the licensing deal with Perplexity, committing to making improvements on how it displays imagery, including image credit with link to source, to better educate users on how to use licensed imagery legally. Thanks for listening. There's more to these stories and a whole lot more tech news at Engadget.com. This episode featured journalism from Steve Dent and Matt Tate and was voiced and produced from the sound studios of Spoken Layer by me, Steve White. Enjoy your day, and I'll be back tomorrow with more tech news from Engadget.